two varieties. One I just bought at a local store, pack from a local store, and they just called like white pickling onions. The other ones were from West Coast Seeds, the Pacific 22. So these store-bought ones, they're actually quite big now. So I'll just pull one here. Lift, actually, that's what you do with these. It rained last night. Good. Really, really good rain. So you can kind of see the size they are. That's a little large for a cocktail pickle. But they've got to come up. Some of them aren't this big. Some of them are bigger. The Pacific 22, I like these ones because they did stay quite small. So I'll get on with this. I'm going to do the entire row. And then maybe later on we'll do some pickling. Just a note about these two varieties of the cocktail onions. I'm lifting these white onions, white picklers. I planted each one individually like I would a bulb onion. These were, both varieties were from seed. The Pacific 22, I planted like you would plant a salad onion in bunches, and I'm just thinking that might be why they have remained a little more compact, because I just planted them in a bunch like that. For me, this is the size of a pickling onion for cocktail pickles. Not like this size. I will pickle these, but I'll pickle all the large ones together, and maybe I'll do like a multi-colored pickles. And then I'll do these Pacific 22s for the cocktails. I do like a Gibson. So as I said, with the Pacific 22s, I planted them like you would a salad onion. Now these are just the little jiffy pots. I think I would plant them this way again. It does, I'm pretty sure that's why they've stayed so small, which is great. But I'm really liking those other onions too. They're a bit bigger, but if I see those seeds again, I think I bought them at a local hardware store. I'll definitely pick some up again for next year. Yeah, there you go. Cocktail onions. So there they are. There's the white pickling onions on the left and the Pacific 22s on the right. We'll take those home, get them cleaned up. Some of them are very small, but say that one will be a good salad onion. And I had to get this guy out of the way too. That is my first bronze stem pasta. It's the rest of the crop will be allowed to get a lot bigger than this one, but it's quite a pretty onion. We'll take that along. Might even pickle it. So I've come home with the onions. Yesterday, in fact. Today's a really squally, miserable, stormy day, so it's a good day to do some pickling. With these ones, these are the Pacific 22. I'll be making a cocktail onion. And with the larger white pickling onion, those ones there, I will be doing a malt vinegar style pickled onion, like a pub style one. All of these onions were started at the end of February, I think on the 28th, in fact, by seed indoors, and they were planted out into the community garden the last week in May. Today is the 25th of July, so we're going to get these into salt. There's two stages to any onion pickling recipe. The first one, if you've bought yours from a supermarket, the onions, they're going to have dry skin on them. So you'll have to cover them in boiling water and leave them for at least 10 hours overnight. And that'll make it a lot easier for you to peel them. As you can see, these onions don't have a hard dried skin on them. They've only been out of the garden for one day, so they're really fresh. I won't have to do that. I will trim these. I'll take off the root end, and I'll probably trim them to about there. And then I will rinse them. I'll put them in a bowl and I will sprinkle them with salt. And I will leave them until this evening. It's 9:30 now, so I can leave them for 10 hours. So at about 7:30 tonight, I can get on and make my seasoned vinegar and get them into jars. That will be then. I'll bring you back in a second and we'll go through the salting stage. So I've weighed them, trimmed them, weighed them. I've got 350 grams here. So I know how much vinegar to make. My stock recipe is for 500 grams of onions. I don't have that many. So there they are in their bowl. Oops, I probably need to rinse those first. And the idea of rinsing them, of course, is to just get them that final little, any dust or skin off, but also so that the salt will adhere to the onions. Then you cover them with a plate, take them somewhere and just leave them for 10 hours. I will do the same with the larger onions. And I'm keeping the tops. Of course, if you buy your pickling onions at the supermarket, they'll come in a net bag and you won't get the tops. With these, I'm going to be making some green onion cakes. And of course, I can use any extras for stock. I freeze my vegetable scraps for stock. Of course, you can make pierogies with cottage cheese and green onion potato filling. All sorts of uses for these. So it's another reason to grow your own onions. So with the larger pickling onions, I've weighed these as well. I have 700 grams of these. So as far as the salt goes, my general rule of thumb is it's like 10 grams for every 100 grams of vegetables you have. So 700 grams of onions, 70 grams of salt. Just pour that over, give it a toss. Again, put a plate on it and let it sit for 10 hours. 8 to 10 hours is fine. You can do it overnight, of course, but yeah, we'll be back later today and we'll finish these off. It's 10 hours later, 10 and a bit. It's nearly 8 o'clock. So I've got my vinegar, malt vinegar, for the malted vinegar pickles on the stove here. Now I only have one enamel pan because of all the moving and stuff like that. I moved a lot of my other stuff out. So it's a non-reactive pan. This is going to be just vinegar. I'm not adding water to anything. The recipe just calls for vinegar, sugar, spices. So that's what we're going to do. And a bit of honey. Now in here, those are my jars. They've been in boiling water now, not boiling, boiled water for about 15 minutes. So they're nice and clean. I have a small pot here with the lids in there, the little snap lids. And we'll get to that later, but they've been sitting in boiled water too. So there's no germs there. So I will put the recipe for the vinegar solution below, but be assured there is coriander seeds, mustard, mace blades, 2 bay leaves, yeah, salt and sugar. That's about it. Oh, and 12 peppercorns. I know that for a fact. All right, so that'll go into the vinegar, along with 2 tablespoons of honey. I'm using a creamed honey because that's what I have. And believe me, it doesn't make a difference in a pickle. So there's 1 tablespoon. No, that's actually both tablespoons, probably 3. But I like a lot of honey in them. I like that, the softness that it brings to the sweet flavor. So I'm going to just make sure that the honey tastes good, and that the sugar and everything dissolves and the salt dissolves. So I'm just going to turn that on. Boom. And as soon as that's boiled, I will bring you back, because the onions that we're using will be rinsed, and they should be put into the jars that I'll be using. And otherwise, we're ready to go. So I'll wash my hands too. I will. I promise. Okay, so here's the jars. I lift them out on the rack. They're all full of nice boiling water. Put them on a rack here. By the way, have been rinsed. There you go. And they are ready to put into these jars. So I'll put them in the jars, and then we'll come back when it's time to top them up with the seasoned vinegar. So with my canning gloves on, some of you might recognize these, I'm going to now pour in the spiced vinegar over the onions until we get to about a 1/2 inch headspace. And the little guy too. So I got 1 1/4 liter of little onions here with my malt vinegar solution. Now, as soon as that hot vinegar is in there, I'm trying to get it to cover those guys. I know that some of them will float. Press them down. Have been sterilized, so you take them with just grab one at a time. And don't touch the insides, you can touch the outside. And then put your finger on the top. I don't think you're getting that. Oh yeah, maybe. That's quite hot. And the same with the large ones here. And put on your canning ring. Make sure your finger is holding the snap lid down. And don't turn it too tight, just finger tight. And then that, which is convex right now, as it cools, it'll draw the lid down and it will become concave and form a seal. And it's a very simple but effective method of keeping your pickles fresh and spoil free. Okay, there we go. And another one. So that's it for the malt pickles. Let me turn you up here a bit. And that is the pickles. Pub style. Hope you enjoy them. Thanks for joining me.